North Korea. Everything we hear about this country is frightening, concerning, or confusing, so it isn't a surprise that their approach to cinema is also frightening, concerning, or confusing. As one of the most secretive countries in the world and with one of the largest propaganda machines, it is understandable that North Korean cinema has often been used to instill government ideologies into the people. There isn't a clear separation between art and politics. Leaders or their groups have written, financed, produced, overseen, censored, controlled films. The main actress of one of the most popular North Korean films was even on their currency at one point. Just as with other regimes, the leaders saw the power that cinema can have on the masses and curated a whole department dedicated to perfecting that exact scope. But if we've learned anything over the years, it is that this country often curveballs us. And while there's all this secrecy and closure to the outside world, their national film festival, the Pyongyang Film Festival, proudly boasts on their website to having screened Bend It Like Beckham to over 12,000 people, and that past screenings included Much of the Penguins and the comedy hit Mr. Bean disaster movie.
Oh, Jesus! Oh, God! Oh, Jesus! God! Oh, Mary, Mother of Jesus!
There are many contradictions in this field. It has often been reported that while the population is kept as oblivious as possible to the outside world, the leaders of the country indulge in all sorts of exotic arts, including blockbuster movies, worldwide famous blockbuster movies in the tens of thousands. And if we dig in the past of North Korean cinema, among films about sacrifice for the country, martyrs, the power of people united, with statements declaring that cinema's duty is to help develop the people into true communists as a means to completely eradicate capitalist elements. Among all this are some completely unexpected titles, the most famous definitely being Pulgasari, an 80s Godzilla-inspired kaiju giant monster movie. But before we get into this iron-chomping madness, there needs to be some context as to what went into the production of this film. Because if regular Hollywood movies have crazy behind-the-scenes stories, imagine what went into the production of an 80s North Korean Godzilla-inspired movie. So let's take a small step backwards. Kim Jong-il, the son of the then ruling Kim Il-sung, was a fan of movies, Godzilla movies and kaiju movies in particular. He liked the big creatures. He also had a big plan to upgrade the North Korean film industry, to create a series of new propaganda movies, and to establish a good enough publicity that could show the rest of the world what North Korea was capable of doing. Now, although some of the new North Korean movies being released under Kim Jong-il's eye, like Sea of Blood or the aforementioned Flower Girl, were garnering a decent success even abroad, there wasn't a well-established film industry within the country that could create what they envisioned as epic counterparts of popular Hollywood movies. Also, most of their filmmakers had no reference outside the borders, so they couldn't really explore with their creativity, and I'm pretty sure they were probably even too scared to do that. South Korea, on the other hand, in the 60s and 70s had gone through a golden age of cinema, with one name, director Shin Sang-ok, basically being the Steven Spielberg of the time. So what did Kim Jong-il do? He had this director and his wife, who was also a popular actress at the time, kidnapped and brought to North Korea, where they were to create new propaganda movies for the government. Although the abduction of foreigners wasn't uncommon at the time, this was one of the most bizarre and most notorious kidnappings, with the filmmakers being kept in lavish buildings, being shown around all the landmarks, and repeatedly instructed on the history and culture of the country in an attempt to indoctrinate them into the North Korean state ideology. Surprise, surprise, it didn't really work out. On the contrary, it led to some Mission Impossible style escape attempts on trains and through walls, which then led to stints in prison camps. All of this before the couple was threatened with it's either death and prison camps or you come down and you start making propaganda movies for us. Which led them to the obvious answer and to becoming the idols of the North Korean film industry and creating various new propaganda movies, including Pulgasari, which, covering a very popular topic like Godzilla, was probably seen as something that could reach the widest audience possible. But the kidnapping wasn't enough. The original creators of the Godzilla movies were actually also tricked into coming into North Korea and working on the film in such a convincing manner that they thought they were working on a Chinese production, but somehow they managed to get them into North Korea. So for how close North Korea was and is, Pulgasari turned out to be a very peculiar production. They even managed to get the same actor of many other Godzilla films to portray the main character, the giant monster in Pulgasari. Anyway, Shin Sang-ok, the director of the movie, and his wife eventually managed to escape North Korea in another wild action movie style event when they were sent to Austria to seek and negotiate investments for a new film, a new biographical film about Genghis Khan, of course escorted by North Korean agents, and they managed to give a hidden note to a receptionist and then escape in a taxi, followed by the North Korean agents, and then they got stuck in traffic and they had to leg it to the American embassy, where they shared a hidden tape recorder and they had managed to get of the leader admitting to the plot to kidnapping them. Understandably, all of this dark backstory was one of the reasons why Pulgasari ended up being a pretty big success even abroad, as well as many seeing some hidden criticism towards the regime hidden in it, but we'll get to that in a moment. What is Pulgasari actually about? The story is based on the Korean legend of Pulgasari, a monster that is basically impossible to kill. The movie is set in medieval times where an evil king depletes a small village's resources, leaving the protagonist starving and on the brink of death. With his last strength, a blacksmith creates a tiny Godzilla-like figure and prays for salvation. That little figure eventually transforms into a real, huge Pulgasari that, without spoilers, can be a savior and defender of the village, but whose rage and hunger for iron can't be stopped. The movie was intended originally to show the power of the collective and how destructive uncontrolled capitalism can be, but many have read some hidden messages against the regime in this movie. For example, the monster arrives as a deus ex machina to save the villagers, but in reality it's still an evil figure who is basically helping the people fight against another evil, but only for his own purposes, eventually leaving the population with nothing. It is unclear whether these messages were actually intended, because after all, the director was kidnapped at that time, so it would have been a pretty dangerous move if we read into them later on. But regardless of all that, after the Vienna escape, the director's name was completely scrubbed off of the film's credits and basically never acknowledged again, except for the statement by the leaders of North Korea saying the couple hadn't actually been kidnapped. They had voluntarily come to North Korea. At this point, we need a Netflix documentary on the whole story. As for the movie itself, it does get rather tense at moments. It does have a dramatic build-up in the second half of the plot, but what really stands out is the production quality, which could be seen as laughable for the years in which it was released. But I personally wouldn't be too harsh on it, given the circumstances in which it was created. And all things considered, the following year, Howard the Duck was released in the United States. One thing I really enjoyed watching was just how Pulgasari is sort of chilling with the villagers between one fight and another. At one point, he's just like lying like Snorlax with the villagers, commenting how his stomach is so full he can't move. Also, on the contrary of most of the Godzilla movies that had been released at the time, Pulgasari is set centuries earlier in medieval Korea. So instead of electric wires, army tanks, missiles, etc., it's set around wooden houses and basic iron weapons. So battle scenes are actually pretty created, even with cannonballs being shot into Pulgasari's mouth and then him spitting them back out. And I'm just going to say it, I don't think I expected that ending. So all in all, the background and creation of Pulgasari and the general North Korean approach to cinema really puts into perspective some of the gossip and behind the scenes stories we hear about regular Hollywood movies. And I definitely think you should check out this film to discover a side of cinema that's not often spoken about and a very sad reality behind the creation of what was then just described as a Godzilla knockoff. Let me know what you think about this topic with a comment down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.